Hello again, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Peer Project. Now, this episode is probably one of the most important conversations I've had on The Peer Project so far. You're about to meet Rachel Parker. Rachel is a mum who noticed that her 11-year-old son was starting to repeat things like women are gold diggers, and then realised that the internet was already getting to him. What followed was a battle against algorithms, ideology, and isolation, all fought through conversation, connection, and most importantly, love. So, if you're a parent, a teacher, a carer, or you just care about the future of boys, then this one's for you. Oh, and also, before we dive in, a massive thank you to everybody in the Peer Project Supporters Club. You're the reason that these episodes keep happening, and I thank you. Now, if you want to be part of that, I will leave the link in the show notes. Alright, come on, let's get into it. Can I just try and get your message out there, because I know that your message is very important. And saying that, in the past week, you've got a bigger following than me now.
It's gone wild out of nowhere. I was below 4,000 for years, and then all of a sudden, everybody's interested in what I've got to say.
So what do you think happened then? Like, what, I know you put up your original post, which, 2.5 million views so far?
Yeah.
And then everything just kind of went a bit mad.
Yeah, so basically I watched the show. I watched it in one sitting, and it made me think, like, it's only just really being put in the public eye, but I dealt with this years before.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm going to put up a video about this, because there's definitely going to be people who are going through the same thing, who are like uncomfortable with how to tackle it and how to have these conversations. There's going to be people as well who don't have the education level that I do, which is not to say that I'm smart, but when you go to university and even college, they get you to do like a lot of critical thinking. And obviously, if you haven't engaged with that kind of education, you just don't have it, and that's all there is to it. Like, it's not, it's just not there, and it's not available to you. So I thought, if I get that out there, that we are capable of combating this just by having critical thinking skills and using lived experiences to draw on, instead of just listening to loud men on the internet saying these things, that it's going to be a lot easier for us to reach our boys and not let them fall into the clutches of people who would have them believe in God knows what.
Right, so let's go back then a few years. Like you were saying, you've been talking about this for a while now. What brought you to kind of to realize what was going on in your life? You've got, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, one boy, but have you got any other children?
No, it's just him. I had him when I was 18, and that was enough for me.
So, so what happened then? So what happened to bring you to start thinking like this, between you and your boy?
So I think it would have been like 11 or 12. And he came to me with, I think we was just having a conversation, and he came out with women are gold diggers. I don't know where it came from, because I don't remember the conversation around it. I just remember that triggering something in my head and me thinking, well, that's not a normal thing for an 11-year-old boy to say. So where did that come from? So we basically started having discussions about where that line of thinking had come from for him. And it was literally just stuff that it was being shown online. And I think at the time as well, he's going through that awkward stage. We've been in COVID lockdown for a year or so by that point. And, he kind of lost contact with the outside world in such a way that he was looking for connection online, I suppose. And that information was coming up. I don't think he was looking for it. I think it was just coming up on his algorithm naturally, which is concerning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the more he consumed the content, the more sense it started to make to him, because he was given sort of palatable little things, such as women are gold diggers, and women should be at home taking care of kids and things like that. That was kind of palatable to him, because that was not overtly offensive in his
Yeah.
opinion. And then the more videos came in, the worse the things got. So it was things like body count and high value man and like low value woman and all of these things that devalue women. But it was really difficult to untangle the web of stuff that had been put into him, especially because he's only ever been raised by women, and I was sort of offended at the very least to say that he bought into these ideologies at all. So I had to keep my emotions on it at bay because I don't think there's any productive conversation to be had in losing your temper. So I very much had to, why do you think that then? Where does that come from? Whilst inside I'm thinking, how dare you betray me?
How did you react then when you first started questioning it?
I tried to come at it with more curiosity than anything else. Like, why do you have that opinion? Where's that come from? You know, for him. But for me, I was just disappointed that this had appealed to him in any kind of way. Not disappointed with him. I'll never be disappointed with him unless he does something exponentially terrible. But I was concerned, confused, like I say, disappointed, and I was worried. I was worried where this would take him because I knew men that bought into this ideology, you know, years ago and were now at a point where they just actively hated women and they were doing awful things to the women in their lives and then using that as an excuse to continue doing it because the women were having reactions to it. So that obviously made the women terrible rather than it being you perpetuating a cycle of violence, whether that be emotional, physical, whatever. And I didn't want him to end up like that. I want him to be a well-rounded adult that can, you know, create meaningful and lasting connections with people rather than somebody who focuses on the shallow things like what Red Pill does.
Well, explain to me then what red pill is, because obviously the program Adolescence doesn't really go into it too much, and I know that this what's the word now? I was trying to think now. This phrase "red pill" is getting thrown about everywhere, and I don't think many people understand exactly what it is, and I certainly don't. I know I don't either. So. If you know, can you share it with me a bit more of exactly what that is and why it is important to get that out there that like what it is?
So it seems to me like it's an amalgamation of different movements that like focused on men and which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. It's the context of those movements. So the incel movement, if you don't know what that is, it's just involuntarily celibate men who are struggling to find women that you know, want to be with them in a romantic or sexual way. And then they get, you know, frustrated by that. And that brings them together. And it's the women's fault rather than their fault and anything they need to work on.
Right.
So it kind of is a self perpetuating cycle of, I know that these women don't want me, but that's their fault, not mine. And then they all kind of reinforce that. But there's also the element of, you know, men's rights activists and the way that they want to what's the right word, criticize the feminist movement because they think that it's gone too far and that now we are repressing men. And there's other facets to it as well, such as the way that men should communicate with women and the way that they have relationships, so that for a man to succeed in a relationship with a woman, he needs to manipulate and basically not be himself, just be what these men are saying is what women want, which is, you know, the bad guy who's not very nice to her and that keeps her wanting you more or whatever. Do you know the bad guy trope? The everybody likes a bad boy or whatever.
Yeah, the bad boy thing.
Except that in my experience, when it comes to women and we talk about it, it's not actually the fact that they're a bad guy. It's the confidence that these boys and men exude that makes women and girls sort of gravitate towards them rather than the bad behaviors, because nobody wants somebody who's going to do stuff like that to them. But yeah, it's basically just a movement where I think it could have had gone in a different way if people weren't focusing it on the disdain and hatred that they have for women because they are not capable of getting one. Which is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, like it just keeps going. But there was an element of it as well that was about male improvement, which basically just meant go to the gym and lose weight and get muscles and to make more money as well. There was a lot of like crypto conversations within all of that as well.
Yeah.
So whilst there was the opportunity for it to be a male improvement thing, it's male improvement on a very shallow level because it's going to the gym and it's making money. It's not going to therapy and figuring out your own deep internal wounds. But it's also blaming women for the fact that you can't do that work or haven't done that work, and they don't want anything to do with you because of it. So it's multifaceted, but a lot of it just revolves around the hatred of women and potentially as well the hatred of oneself, which is quite sad to think.
I'm going to be jumping back and forward here because sometimes I've got a neural brain, so my brain will be going thinking about 100 different things at a time. Well, good. Well, you mentioned earlier that you're university educated. What did you specialize in? What did you study?
Law. I have a degree in law. Yeah. But I also did a year of science where I took psychology and sociology, so it's like social sciences. I did that at college as well, but I did it for 1 year at university and decided I wanted to do law instead. And I think that they helped me when it comes to having these conversations because law will teach you how to hold your cool in these conversations because we had to do like courtroom settings, which you have to be very relaxed. Because I didn't used to be. I'm quite explosive sometimes. But it's really taught me how to like bring things down. But yeah, it's I think it's helped me in this situation a lot.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So, one of the things that I've noticed on your social media recently as well is that you talk a lot about how to de-red pill. Is
Yeah.
the term that's getting thrown about right out there as well. Can you tell me about that, and particularly about the conversations that you are having now with your wee one?
So my thing with that is, I have had quite a few people come to me and say that the men in their lives have been red pilled and how to have conversations with them. I don't claim to know how to pull someone out of a deep pit of red pill, but if you notice somebody's going down the pipeline of saying these things and they're starting to like exhibit behaviors that are concerning and you think it might be related to that, it's worth just having these conversations because I think connection is going to be at the antithesis of the red pill movement because a lot of it forces social isolation. So I think having those conversations was the most important thing that I did. And I do say in one of my videos, like, um, it's not how you start it that's important, really. It's that you start it. So for me, it was just, I wanted to teach my child to look at things through a bit more of a critical lens because he was just watching this information, taking it in and believing it straight away, which we're all guilty of. Like, none of us are safe from propaganda. But it's yeah, I think that whilst I'm talking about like red pilling, I more mean the people that are like slipping into it because I would never claim to know how to pull somebody out of the trenches of it. But
Mhm.
obviously a lot of my content as well is geared towards parents who are concerned about this because not a lot of people knew about it before, it's really gone wild. And so I wanted parents to have something that they could come to in order to, utilize the skills that I had to create because I didn't have any information on how to do this. So yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just going to be having conversations with people and, understanding where they're coming from and not trying to shame them for having those thoughts or those feelings, but also trying to get them to rationalize them. I do often think that getting people to discuss where their feelings come from and like where their understanding of the world comes from can actually help deconstruct the what's the right word? Oh my gosh, where's this word gone? It's sort of like it's what they use to cover up what is actually going on.
Oh, like a
So
smoke
when
screen type thing. Smoke screen? Is that what you're
yeah, yeah. So
something like that?
I think they use it as a way to like cover up what they're actually feeling. I've had quite a few conversations with people who have told me that they were red pilled and they've come out of it. They lost their social connections and stuff like that. And oftentimes these men who were pulled into it, and women do get pulled into it too, but I haven't spoken to any of them. The men were just looking for community. They were looking for connection. They were looking for somewhere to belong. And that's a really good place for it, as long as you believe the ideology. So that's why I say having conversations is important.
Yeah, it's scary though, isn't it? Like that children, particularly young men, can be kind of can be brought into that work because we see the content, well, I say we, and I know that other adults will get kind of dragged in, but I don't like myself. Like I see that content all the time. I see it in my feeds all the time, and I am mentally strong enough to just let's move on. Let's look at something. Let's look at some cats or something. Just make myself happy. But people of that age, yeah, if it's out there, they believe it. Given how young you were when you had your wee one, do you think that ended up being a bit of a benefit for you as well because you're so close in age? So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm trying to come up with the best way to say this, but because you're so close in age, there is an easier way to bond between you two. You follow me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make perfect sense actually. And I did do a video about this not too long ago where I said, for me growing up, I didn't have an awful strong friendship connection with my mum. Like she was very much, I'm your mum, I'm not your mate. So we would never talk about anything on a deeper level as long as my physical needs were taken care of. The rest of it was confetti. She weren't really bothered about it.
Sure.
But for me, when I had my son, I really wanted him to feel emotionally safe enough to come to me when he's having troubles and when he's struggling with things. And I know obviously he's 15 now, so he's going through that stage where it is also quite difficult to talk to any adult, not just your parent.
Mhm.
But for me, when I was that age, when I had no one to turn to, all I ever wanted was to have a mum that I could trust and that I could rely on to be there for me emotionally rather than just physically. And that was one thing that because I didn't ever have an adulthood that didn't involve being a parent, I went from being a child to having a child. So I remember what it was like to be a child in those situations. And I think that's what's helped me more than anything is that I did go from being a child to having a child. So that kind of never left me. And it's not yeah, I just really wanted to be friends with him in a way that was productive, not just obviously being his friend and not taking on the responsibility of being a parent because I absolutely do that. But I wanted to be able to create a safe space between the two of us where he could come to me when he was having troubles.
And are you quite comfortable in the fact that you have done that? You think you've got good, good. That's always good as well because emotions for boys is difficult anyway. I used to go around schools before COVID. I used to visit schools like everywhere and talk about emotions and things like that. And you would always see like the boys up the back just giggling and laughing but
Mm.
by the end of it, I think I got through to a few of them, which is good. But it is scary that in this world where I mean, pretty much I could go online right now and say the sky's purple. I've seen it purple. s- You know, believe me that the sky's purple, and people will believe me.
Yeah.
And and I believe that maybe these sort of things should be regulated a wee bit as well, especially with people as with such high followings as and I'm not do you know what I'm not even going to say his name because I've said his name enough recently. But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The guy who's always got his top off. Nobody needs to see that. Um, so how do you then monitor that? As a parent of a young boy with the internet being so accessible as it is, how do you or can you even monitor it?
I'm going to say you can't really monitor it. And that's why I'm advocating for teaching your children critical thinking skills and media literacy. Because, and I've had this conversation a lot in my comment section, people saying, well, my child's not going to have social media until they're 18. And I'm like, that's all well and good. But unless they've got the social awareness, the critical thinking skills, and the media literacy, they're still going to be victim potentially to these narratives that don't make an awful lot of sense. You still need to give your children these skills in order to properly connect and use this sort of platform. But I do see a lot of fully grown adults without these skills, which is why when I was making videos in the beginning, I was indicating that people should go and watch those videos because the communication strategies that I talk about in it, they're useful in so many different aspects as well. And I think that's a large part of the problem is that we all think that we can just sweep it under the rug and either go away or if we don't let our children on the internet before a certain age, then they'll just magically be capable of engaging with that information appropriately.
Mm.
And that's not how this works, especially as a millennial, I'm 33, like, I grew up with, like, unmitigated access to everything on the internet, and boy, did we take the mick out of that, you know? So because I knew what was already, what you were capable of doing on the internet, I definitely wanted to make sure that, there was a connection between us and obviously it worked out in the end that this did come up, but I just wanted him to be able to come to me to discuss it, um, And yeah, I think it's just hard work, isn't it? Because it's always going to come up anyway. And like you said, it comes up on your algorithm, and if you even if you just scroll past it, you spend a second too long on it, and the algorithm is like, they liked that. Let me give them some more.
Yeah.
And I experienced that too myself. So
What is media literacy then? What is that? I mean, I've got an opinion in my head, I think, of what it is, but in your terms, in terms of what you're talking about, what is media literacy?
I would say media literacy is being able to consume a piece of content, whether it's a video, a book, a movie, whatever, and being able to break down what the actual messaging of it is. So being able to identify things like hyperbole, like we see videos. I myself have done this on a few videos where I've just said men as an all-encompassing umbrella term for the male part of the population. And people take that as an individualistic point, like I'm saying it at every single man. But that's hyperbole. Like I'm saying it as an all-encompassing term, not meant to be taken literally. So I think things like that are going to be really, really important, and they have been important for years. We've just not really been talking about them. You know, it's being able to consume a piece of media and not take it to heart. You know, like if you connect with something, that's fine. Like I read a lot. I own 500 books, so obviously I connect with literature a lot. But I also have to remember that these things are meant to be enjoyed rather than me consuming them in order to just feel something. You know, it's about being able to engage with things appropriately, and also to be able to, where was I going to go with that? There was definitely another point. I'm sorry, I've got ADHD, so my brain just
Wait, is that
straight
okay?
into, I can't remember what the other point was. I'm just going to have to leave that until it
It's all right. It'll come back to you. I
comes.
promise you, it'll come back to you. This exactly the same thing happens to me when I'm interviewing somebody. I don't like it. I don't like it to be like an interview. I like it conversation style. And then, when you're talking, I can hear it like, oh, I can go down that route, and then my brain holds on to that question. But then, and it's no word of a lie. I was telling my wife this the other day that as as you start to wrap up what you're saying, my brain goes, oh, she's starting to wrap up. Right, time to forget that question you were just about to ask, and then it's gone. It's gone
Yeah.
right out of my head. So that happens. That happens to me as well, and it's difficult, especially like when you're interviewing people that are, um, are experienced at being interviewed, and then I'm just sitting here in a cupboard at the bottom of my stairs, just trying to make it that I've got all this stuff going on. But anyway, back to you.
Yeah.
These past few weeks, your following and stuff has significantly grown, but also your engagement as well
Mm.
has really went a bit mad, and with that sort of subject comes different types of people and different types of comments. Particularly being neurodivergent like you are, how do you cope with that sort of stuff, particularly the negative ones? Because they can come across quite strugglesome.
Yeah, they definitely can. It's been an experience to say the least. That was another thing about media literacy. I was going to say you've just brought it.
Ah, there you go. See, told you.
It's being able to identify that, like, you know, not everything that comes up on your For You page was specifically curated for you.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people in my comments being like, don't know why this is coming up. I don't even have kids. And I'm like, well, then it weren't for you and you can just scroll past it. But, you know, you can be child adjacent, could still be relevant information for you. Um, that's another part of media literacy, is recognizing that not every piece of content you come across was specifically made for you.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I don't want to go to the next point before I say this, because there was a Ricky Gervais joke that
Mm.
he says that he you could go into a town and there's a big massive billboard saying guitar lessons, £20 an hour, and you've got people standing in front of that billboard going, but I don't want guitar lessons. Okay, fine, that's not for you. You just
Mm.
drive past it, but then there's people who will literally stop in their car and start be like, I don't want that. Okay, fine, move on. And I think that's the sort of thing that you mean, isn't it? Like, people are commenting on your content going, uh, why am I seeing this? Doesn't matter, just scroll on. But yeah, so my original question was, how are you coping with this newfound, I'm going to say fame, right? Fame's not the right word to use, and notoriety in terms of your engagement, and of course the negative comments and things that always come with that sort of thing.
This is gonna, because I do have like rejection sensitivity when it comes to my ADHD, which I'm sure a lot of people suffer with, where I do take things quite personally. But for some reason in my brain, it only ever means the people that I am actually connected to on an emotional level. So I don't really care about it when it happens online. I've had quite a few instances of being online and having terrible people flatten my stuff before. And I will admit, the first few times that happened, I felt it keenly. It wasn't very nice. And then I remembered, I had a kid at 18, so I've been criticized my entire adult life. There is nothing someone on the internet could say to me that I haven't said 5 inches from a mirror. I've said all of the hateful things to myself, and then I've learned to accept myself as well. And I think that's what gets me. As I think a lot of the hate comments that you see online, they can be projections, and I can either take them personally and be really hurt and upset by them, or I can just water off a duck's back and be all right with it. So I've just chosen to be all right with it.
Oh, good. And I think because one thing that I see quite often now on social media, and I don't know if you've done it yet, but I know like a lot of people have, when you see like a really negative comment and then you can just do a video reply to it and then just bring,
Hmm.
bring almost more attention to it. And then by the time you go and click on the comment, it's like video comment not found because I've just deleted it and I've just moved on. Because
Yeah.
that that comment, they've thought about you for what, 3 seconds, comment, okay, I've moved on, and that's it. You're out of their brain for the rest of their life. But with minds like ours, that's going to stay with you. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of try and keep in mind that when you're on the internet and that, you know, you don't matter to these people as much as they matter to you. And it's a hard thing to see, and it sounds quite harsh as well, I think. But I think that's kind of along the media literacy line as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I think for me has been recognizing that as well, the more social engagement something gets, the more social engagement it's going to get. So,
Yeah.
it's going to get to the people who need it, even though the people who don't need it are commenting on it saying mean things. It isn't nice to deal with, and it's not nice to see. But like you said, they make a comment and then they move on. And these comments can stick with you, especially when you've got like, ADHD or you're on the spectrum and in any way you can have like obsessive thought patterns where it just keeps going around and around. And I've had those my entire life. So I quite easily discredit them because I'm like, well, it is what it is, and I can't control that thought, but I can control my reaction to it. And I have responded a couple of times to comments with videos, and I've tried to be productive in some of them, and some of them I've just been a straight up arsehole to them. Because sometimes I just think, Dad, you don't deserve my empathy right now because of the way that you're speaking to me. And I'm one of those people. If you respect me, I'll respect you. We'll have good conversation, even if we don't agree on things. I'm happy to have conversations with people that are a little bit more precarious. As long as we're both being respectful, then it doesn't, go to name calling or questioning someone's lifestyle choices and stuff. Like for me, I'm trying to help other parents that were in potentially the same situation as me or worried about being in it or have watched adolescents and are concerned about, just the future in general. Um, and then I had people getting in my comment section and having a go at me because my son doesn't have a dad. And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do about that? Let me go buy one right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go pick one up.
Yeah, I know. All the good ones are taken though. So yeah, that's it. We're all gone.
Literally, what do you want me to do, guys?
Mhm.
Can't find them anywhere. The shop is out.
So this is the other thing I was going to ask you, and I don't want you to tell me anything that you haven't already put out there, because I know that with anything online, we do keep things back, and that's perfectly fine. You'd mentioned earlier, that your son has only had women raising him and things like that. So what is, without giving me anything too much, but what is home life like for you guys? Like,
It is kind of everything that people want when they have kids. I see this conversation all the time. People saying that this is how they want life to be. So we don't argue. We do have discussions,
Mhm.
but I don't think I've ever seen him lose his temper. He's a very
Wow.
even-tempered child, especially at the age of 15. I was a nut job at 15. So he's definitely probably got his dad's temperament. I knew his dad when we were younger, obviously, and he seemed chill. Don't know what he was like at home, but you know, he doesn't get that from me, so I'm quite lucky there. But yeah, like the way that we live is very much how people want it to be when they have kids. And I've had a lot of people say to me, you know, I hope that when my child is older, we have the same relationship as what you've got with yours. And this is all in my private life, obviously, because I don't put him on the internet. I don't have conversations with him on TikTok or anything like that. He doesn't even engage with my content. I'm surprised he hasn't blocked me yet. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, like, you know, it's very mellow. We don't scream and shout. Like, he helps around the house. He does the pots. Like, he obviously brings his own clothes down to be washed and things like that. Like, I'm just trying to create a functional human being whose life isn't constantly set around like stressful stuff or like constant demands. And I myself can't live like that. So yeah, I just try to keep it like chilled and relaxed. And it's just me and him. Like, I have been single, not dating for almost 2 years now. And it's been quite nice. It's been quite nice. It's just me and him. And we indulge our nerdy stuff. So I cross stitch. That's all my stuff back there. And my son builds Lego things. And
Nerdy is like that's what nerd. That's the way it should be. You know, that's the way. Like, I mean, if you look behind me, I've got wrestling belts behind me, and you know, I've got a keyboard, and you know, I've got all my geek stuff just going, and I love life. It's great. Have you ever ever watched the show Gilmore Girls? You know
I
the
love Gilmore Girls.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the way you're describing your relationship with your kid is very similar to what that's the impression that I get. Is it like
Yeah.
Lorelai and oh my god, I forgot her name.
Rory.
Rory, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it like that, obviously, but from a male female
Mm.
perspective. Do you ever run into any kind of like issues that you might feel that you can't resolve as a female, or you can't help? You know, like where you might feel, God, this is going to sound like a really, I'm going down the other way here, but you might feel a man would be better at handling this than me. That is a horrible thing to say. I shouldn't have said that. But do you understand what I mean?
Well,
I'm thinking into a hole here. Let me just go and call that hole back up now.
No, I think it's a valid point, and it's a point that a lot of people have brought up, you know, that you know, boys do still need male influences. And my son does have people other than his dad. You know what I mean? Like, my dad's around. He had another granddad who passed away last year, but he was very much like a good influence on my son. That was my stepdad. My brother, I've got several brothers. They're around. He's got a lot of really solid male friendships as well. But the one thing that they're gonna have to teach him that I can't is how to shave his face. I've never had to shave a beard before in my whole life. I wouldn't know how to do it. So I've already had the conversation that, like, you know, when you start getting facial hair, it'll be patchy if it's anything like all the other men in my family. But you know, he's gonna have to learn how to shape that, and that's not something that I can teach him how to do. I was worried, just like male personal hygiene. I didn't know, and obviously I've had to learn. It's a bit of a weird thing to Google. Don't let them catch me doing that. But yeah, there are of course like things that I can't identify with or like logistically don't understand because I've never done it. You know, but we do talk about things of a more sensitive nature as well. So we talk about like sexual relationships and things like that, because I know that that's something as well that we try to push boys to have those conversations with men. And I'm like, that he's not close enough to any man for that, so it's going to have to be me. So I've had to learn how to have those conversations without turning into an absolute, like, it just makes me cringe. I just want to hide. But yeah, no, there's definitely some things I can't do.
I'm with you on that. There was a guest on. I don't know if you've seen. I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago. There's a Rebecca Goodwin, the kind of OnlyFans.
Good week.
Yeah, so she was on a couple of weeks ago, and I said to her, like maybe about 10 minutes into the podcast, I was like, listen, I am a total prude. Not you know, you're a prude, right? But I get embarrassed very easily, and if you were to say like a dirty word to me or something, that's me. I'm gone. You know, red faced, and But 10 minutes later, she was you know talking about everything that she does in their scenes and stuff. And I was like, no, don't. I can't talk about it. Thankfully, my wife is very, very open about those sort of things, so she deals with all that sort of talking stuff with my kids. I've only got girls, so I don't really understand the whole like bringing up men or young men into this world, and I don't really understand the challenges in it, which is why I was really keen on having a conversation with you. But to go back to what we were like initially talking about right at the beginning, the whole adolescence red pill stuff. And you'd mentioned this conversation about all women or gold diggers. Is that the first sign that you'd seen, or was there like alarm bells leading up to that conversation in the first place?
I think there was some stuff in hindsight after that where I'd been like, oh, maybe that was a sign that he was maybe engaging in material he shouldn't have been watching. And that was just him sitting in his bedroom more.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he used to sit up there anyway because that's where his Xbox was. But I would always hear him when he was playing because he either talks to himself whilst he's playing or he's got his headset on and he's talking to other people.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of time where he was quiet and I noticed that. I wondered whether he wasn't playing with his friends as much and I did used to ask. And with the benefit of hindsight, after he spoke about it, I was like, oh, that's what he was doing then.
Oh.
And that is mentioned in adolescence. Jamie was in his bedroom, he was meant to be safe. That's what his dad says. And I've never related to anything more because I felt the same. And my son is like a homebody. He doesn't really go out with his friends. He does speak to them, like they'll have long phone calls together and things like that, but he doesn't really go out with them an awful lot. So it wasn't abnormal for him to be in his bedroom, but the abnormal thing was that he wasn't talking to anyone. He was, but now we have a PlayStation and downstairs. So he's not isolated in his bedroom anymore. It's open plan as well, so I can hear everything even when I'm upstairs.
Yeah.
So I do like to keep an eye on it now. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the most poignant parts of it for me was them acknowledging that they thought Jamie was safe because he was in his bedroom.
And that last scene from Adolescence where Stephen Graham is on the bed and he's crying, listen, I
I
can't,
sobbed.
nah, yeah. And he's saying, "I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry I failed you." As like he's talking like that. Now, obviously, I know that your son didn't go as far, and that was kind of caught there. But was there any internal feeling from you at that point when you had to have that conversation and you knew that that's the sort of stuff that you'd been engaging with? Was there any internal guilt? Or feelings like you're like not just your typical mum guilt, but was there anything internal that you thought, oh wait a minute, is this me?
Yeah, absolutely. Because around the time that my son said all of that, I had not long since got out of a abusive relationship with a man who was very loud and domineering. And I had to wonder whether having that man around him, it wasn't for a long time, it was like a year or so. But having that man in his life at all, is that what pushed him towards these men who are also loud and domineering in these conversations that I mean, I grew up in a house where the loudest person was gonna be the right person. They had to be right because otherwise they were just gonna be louder. Um, and I tried to avoid that. Obviously, with my child, I tried to make like a nice, quiet, calm environment with us where we can talk. But that guy was very full on. And I wondered whether that had contributed to his ability to take this information in and really like connect with it because that man had made him feel like that was what it was to be a man.
Right, yeah. I forgot. I know I keep going back to this, but bringing up kids is just, especially in today's world, it's such a it's a minefield about that. Now this is it. I had a question in my head and it's gone. Um, so let me just run back through what you were saying there from that relationship and bringing it there. Oh yeah. So by the way, any of my questions that I'm asking, I'm only kind of responding to anything that you've said. And if I ask anything that's a bit too personal or whatever, or just tell me to shut up. It's fine. I'll take it.
I'm quite an open book. I am not ashamed of anything I've done in my life because it's brought me to where I am today, which is allowing me to be able to help other parents. And that's,
Good.
I'll take it all again just to
Mhm.
be able to get to this point. You know what I mean?
So you mentioned earlier, and it stuck with me in my head here about that. You said you've been actively single for 2 years, and is that a choice? Is that like that's it? I'm done with men, or I'm done with dating. Excuse me, I'm done with dating, and this is it. My life is now
Mm.
my full concentration is on you. Is that like was that like an active choice then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the thing is as well, like, I don't have to just date men, I can date women as well. And I've taken myself out the entire game. I've not been on any dates with anyone for the last couple of years. It's been,
Mm.
I've had a couple of, you know, getting to know people but I've made it quite clear that I'm not interested in anything like that. But yeah, it definitely wasn't healthy for me to stay in that area of relationships anyway, because what I'd experienced with the guy that I mentioned was so extreme that I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, where I was experiencing like sleep paralysis, except the sleep paralysis demon was him. And I put cameras up around my house because I was like, this guy's getting into my house. I'm waking up with him in my bedroom. And then, you know, I need to catch him. I need to get the police involved in this. And then it turned out that nothing was caught on the cameras because it was psychological. I was doing it to myself. And I was like, oh, I'm really not okay. And I can't bring this energy into somebody else's life. I'm very much a believer of, if I'm going to show up in a relationship, I'm going to be the best version of myself. Especially when it comes to men, because I feel like a lot of men, this is really the only place that you're going to experience a full understanding from someone and be seen as a whole and complete person rather than just a man. So I like to bring the energy into my relationships where I am capable of giving you everything. And I couldn't do that whilst I was actively suffering from what another man had done to me. So I wanted to make sure that when I come back into the relationship sphere, I can be exactly what I've always been in the past, which is 100% committed and not traumatized. So yeah, I'm currently working on that. I'm in therapy. They're not really sure what to do with me, I'm not gonna lie. Because obviously it's a bit all over the place. That kind of stuff is a bit mental. But yeah, it was a decision to sort of, I don't want to perpetuate any more trauma on other people, so I have to take myself out of the game.
How do you feel about therapy? What's your take on it?
I think it can be a fantastic resource for pretty much everyone. I think you've got to be engaging with it in good faith. I don't think there's any point in going if you're not going to be completely honest. If you're not going to open up about everything that's happened to you, your flaws as well as, the people around you. I think it can be a great resource for everybody, but obviously, like I say, got to engage in good faith. Yeah.
But taking everything away, taking the law degree, the psychological, the relationships, everything, stripping it all back. What I'm seeing right in front of me at the moment is a mum who's just trying to do her best by her boy, and you know all the negative comments, all the online notoriety, all that away. That is essentially who Rachel Parker is just a mum doing her best for her boy. And to be honest with you, looking at your content and what you're putting out into the world, you're not just doing your best for your own boy, but you're doing your best for a lot of other boys out there as well. And I think you should be commended for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been really humbling to see how many people have connected with that content and to see the way that other people want to educate themselves to help, because that's all we're doing these days is we're all just trying to get our children to have a childhood that they don't have to recover from. And I think that's the hardest thing here, is that we're all just fumbling our way through it because we're in uncharted territory. Our kids have got access to things that we could have never, have believed. And I know that we were looking at random things on the internet when we were younger, because I know that my friends are definitely looking at questionable things, but it wasn't thrust in front of us. It were things that we were speaking out. Whereas,
Find it, yeah.
and if you didn't have I think that's the problem as well, like, is that kids are impulsive. And so these boys in my school when we were younger, they were thinking of these things and then going and looking for them. They've got no impulse control, just wanted to see what they could find. Whereas now, you don't even need to do that. Like, it's coming to you.
Yeah.
And that's quite scary.
So, no, it's away. Hang on, it's coming back. I'm so comfortable talking to you because I know you understand what's just happened to me there as well. Where was I? So you were talking about. Oh yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. How does he feel about what you're doing online? Has he got that kind of oh mom type thing, or is he proud of you, or does he even?
Well, I did say to him, if this makes you uncomfortable in any way, if the people at school start picking up on it and they start talking about it, just let me know and I'll stop. Because I want you to be comfortable with this. And that's, I think, it's important that we're helping other people. You're my main priority. So if it's making you uncomfortable, just tell me. And I've said that before as well, because I've been making content for years, just stupid stuff. I was never really like going. I had one moment where I went viral for a silly video that's about 7 seconds long. That's got like 4 million views. But other than that, I've never really, just I get like a select few people that like keep coming back to my content and commenting. And I always said to him back then as well, if your friends find it and it makes you uncomfortable, just let me know. I'll delete the whole thing. I don't care. It's just social media at the end of the day. It's not It's nothing. And he's just like, I really don't care. You can do what you want. Just do it. I'm not bothered. I'm not going to get into it with you. I'm not going to involve myself, but you can do whatever you want. But obviously I do still check to make sure he's okay with it. But yeah, but I've had quite a few different opportunities come my way, and he just sits there and he's like, you make a mountain out of a molehill, you do, and now everybody wants to bully you on a podcast and write articles about you, look at you, and I'm like, well, it's not because everybody's experiencing it these days. People need more information on it, and it might have seemed like a molehill to us at the time because it was only a short amount of time that he was consuming the content and he wasn't super deep in the pipeline. But it certainly is a mountain now that everybody's trying to scale.
So the best thing, like the one thing I'm getting from you as well is about education, and this should be educated to kids. Your media literacy and your critical thinking, which I do feel is very, very important as well. How do you believe that could be taught? Like, is that sort of something that we could take into schools? Given that, if a teacher tells a kid something, the kid's going to go and do the exact opposite anyway. But so how do you think we could get that into the education system?
I would say the same way that we got into classrooms. We didn't used to talk about sex education or interpersonal relationships or anything like gender identity and whatever. And now we're just starting to talk about those in schools as well, because we're just trying to teach our children to be a little bit more socially aware and also accepting. I think that's, so I think if we put it in the context of a class like that, and it was part of the curriculum or something that, people were delivering. Because I used to work for Youth Justice for a company called Remedy. I'm not involved with them anymore, whatever, but they have workers that go out into schools and they'll present like presentations about knife crime, county lines, domestic abuse. They did try to do a misogyny one, but it was shaky at that point because we were still really unsure of what to like include in it. Just things like that, like, really trying to educate children on these things. And any employee that worked for them, everybody had to learn it. So I've learned all of those things as well. And I think that might be a good way to do it as well, is to make it so that these things can be taken into school rather than it's part of the curriculum. Because I think we're a long way off of going into schools and it being part of the curriculum. But I will say, we are taught somewhat media literacy in English classes. When you read a poem and it's, oh, what do you think that means? What do you think the blue curtains mean? It means that they're sad or whatever. But it's just it needs to be more comprehensive than that. And I think those questions need to be aimed at the students as well. So, no answer is a wrong answer, like fostering this connection to them in a way that is productive for both of us. Not just the teacher trying to hit the marks that they need. It's also the child or children that are like putting in their thoughts about it and realizing that, what they perceive of something, somebody else might perceive it in a different way. And then that opens the conversation to why are there so many perceptions of this? And that leads to more acceptance of other people's experiences in life.
Do you feel that this kind of version of you that we're getting online just now, you think this is you, certainly for the time being, your purpose, I guess,
Yeah.
on social media?
Absolutely. I've been having this conversation with the people in my life anyway, where I'm saying like, this is the hot topic of the moment. So people are talking about it right now. And as long as I can keep this conversation going, I will. But obviously it's going to fade away eventually unless we keep it in the public eye, which is why I'm going to keep trying to push more content out so that people are being brought to it. And another reason why I'm accepting opportunities like this, because I've never done this before, but it's important for us to have lots of different versions of media on lots of different platforms to bring attention and awareness to it. So yeah, this is not me. This is not my personality. This is not who I am. Like I'm a silly person. I'm normally very like jovial and stuff. So it's really, really weird to have this specially curated version of myself on there that's having serious conversations because I'm normally just an idiot.
Listen, we're all
Yeah. I need to as well, like, 'cause my accent, I change it a little bit just so that it's more understandable because I have got a really strong, like, Derby accent.
Who are you talking to here, you know?
I know.
You bloody Scottish accent galore here, so you're not, I get it, 100%, I get it. Obviously, you know, you've done quite well on social media just now, and I think a lot of people will know, you know, who you are and where to find you. But for those who don't, you know, where can we find your stuff?
Literally just TikTok at the minute. I'm just on TikTok, and it's my name on it is Rachel Parker, but it's got no vowels in it.
Okay.
So take those out, and that's me.
Okay, I'll put it in. I'll put it in the description. Yeah, I'll put it in the description of the video then, or even what I'll do is I'll just flash it up on the screen just now, so
Yeah.
so people could actually see it, because I seen it myself, and it's quite a difficult one to get. But I get it, if you're working with kids and you're working with vulnerable people, you need to you need to do that anyway. Listen, thank you for talking to me. Genuinely, it's such a. I mean, I had to learn from this sort of thing. And that was Rachel Parker, an honest, brave woman, and doing what all of us are essentially trying to do: raise good humans in a world that's getting harder to understand. Now, if this conversation made you think or maybe feel something, don't just move on. Share it, talk about it, use it. And if you want to help me keep making episodes like this, then you could join the Peer Project Supporters Club. It's just $5 a month. That's less than a coffee in some places, but it makes a huge difference. Now, as I said in the interview, Rachel's socials are linked in the episode description as well. So go follow her, show her some love, show her some support, and thank you so much for being here. I'm Chris Duke, this is the Peer Project, and I'll see you next time.